Progressive rock fans must be some of the most sentimental music listeners on the planet. Of course, prog fans are also some of the most devoted fans in the world. Who else would go see Dream Theater every fucking year? But if we're not careful, our relationship with the artists we love can begin to resemble an abusive relationship. We feel like they owe us something, namely to make music that sounds like the stuff we grew up with, that we built fond memories around, that gave us comfort during hard times. So every time Steven Wilson puts out a new record, it drives me insane to see all the negativity emanating from his supposedly loyal fan base. Now, I've been a Steven Wilson fan for 20 years. Porcupine Tree's In Absentia is one of a handful of records that found its way to me in middle school and permanently sealed my fate to be a struggling professional musician. I began to beg my dad to take me to see these bands live, and he would shake his head, grab his earplugs, and dutifully sit at the bar while I headbanged with a bunch of middle-aged men. If you want proof, you can watch Porcupine Tree's Arriving Somewhere DVD, and you'll find a youthful me with long hair headbanging in the front row. Funny story, actually. Robert Fripp played a solo set to open that show, and I think that because he was so unassuming when he walked out on stage, the whole audience just thought he was a guitar tech or something because everyone just kept talking and hanging out. I was sitting on the edge of the stage right in front of Robert Fripp while he was playing his set. The disrespect, it's horrifying for me to remember this. I wonder if people were standing in the wings backstage going, that fucking kid is just sitting on stage while Robert Fripp is playing. Anyways, LOL. Okay, actually just one more quick story. When it came time to mix my first record, Big Heart Machine, I reached out to a great mix engineer named Brian Montgomery, and I told him that I want the drums to define the sound of the record. I told him specifically I wanted them to sound like Gavin Harrison's drums on In Absentia. And he said, oh, well, that's good because I worked on that record. The point is, my love for many of the prog and power metal bands that I grew up on waned over the years, and my love for Steven Wilson has only continued to grow. So in this video, I'm going to remind my viewers why Steven Wilson is the best and why his new record, The Future Bites, deserves more than a couple casual listens before we all write it off and decide that it sucks. This is Score Study with me, Brian Krock. 1. Steven Wilson always wrote great pop hooks. Come on, don't pretend that Lazarus wasn't your favorite song on Deadwing and that Trains wasn't your favorite song on In Absentia. We all know they were. It's okay to admit it. The idea that catchy pop melodies is a new development in Steven Wilson's career is asinine. If anything, accessibility is like the one through line that connects all of his diverse work. 2. Writing a good hook is really hard. We have to stop fetishizing the wrong things in music.
Okay, so I'm pretty much amazing.
I have a feeling that Steven isn't writing prog-oriented music anymore because he's bored of it. He's done it already. He made genre-defining prog records. You can't fake that. From my perspective, he is focusing in his middle age on distilling his ideas to their essence. That takes maturity and patience because it involves destructive editing. It involves throwing out all the ideas that don't need to be there. And Steven said for The Future Bites, he wrote something like 30 songs, and he turned it into like a 40-minute long record. 3. The interest is in the mix. I have a feeling that a lot of people are simply bummed because there aren't any unusual chord progressions or surprisingly dissonant melodies or off-kilter rhythms in these new records that Steven's been making. And this is a point at which I would remind you that by far the most prevalent trend in modern music is a focus on being creative within the parameter of timbre as opposed to rhythm, melody, or harmony. And that is an area in which Steven excels. He's a mix engineer and a remastering engineer, after all, which brings me to my next point. 4. Dude does literally everything. If you've never been involved in making records, it can be really hard to explain just how Herculean Steven Wilson is in this regard. In my opinion, just making a halfway decent record is already a humongous accomplishment for basically anyone. There are a million different variables that all need to go smoothly in order for the magic to happen in the studio. And normally there's a different expert supervising each one of these individual variables. And the best individuals bring a lifetime of expertise into their field. Steven Wilson, on the other hand, is exemplary at everything, and this is extremely unusual. 5. Dude is making Gassobkunstvax. People are gonna hate this. I know. Referencing Wagner is douchey and out of touch, and I'm only halfway kidding though. Every element is executed at the highest level, and it's all interrelated in the smartest way down to the merch, art, style, fonts, etc. This is complete commitment to executing an idea on a grand scale. 6. What are we going to do when we get to 12? I've only got 10 fingers. The only constant in Steven's career is change. Why on earth would we expect for Steven to trod the well-worn ground that he has already explored for the past 3 decades? He's never done that. Over the past few days, I've been re-listening to Steven's huge and incredibly diverse discography. No Man, Porcupine Tree, his solo records, Blackfield, the records he produced for Opeth, Bass Communion, Storm Corrosion. The speed with which Wilson is able to pivot from trip-hop inspired tapes to Pink Floyd-esque psychedelia, to straight-up prog rock, to ambient music, to talk inspired sound collage, all while retaining the essential core of Steve Wilson-ness. To my ears, it all sounds authentically him, and it's all successful to varying degrees. In an era for prog rock where the most successful bands have been around for decades and are shamelessly rehashing old ideas to appease their fans, Steven Wilson stands apart because he continues to look forward. 7. Steven is open-minded. One of the strangest ironies is that prog fans pride themselves on supposedly being open-minded, yet when confronted with music that doesn't suit our tastes, we start shitting all over it. I just wonder if any of these people hating on Steven's more recent records have ever stopped to consider the likely possibility that the reason they're not digging his new records is because they have stopped listening with an open mind. Take the music at face value, judge it by its own rubric. 8. The Future Bites is a good record. Regardless of whether you like it or not, I respect your opinion on that. You cannot deny that The Future Bites is a good record. The soundstage is presented in the highest possible quality. The mixes are adventuresome, intricate, beautiful, surprising. Yes, I have songs that I like more and songs that I like less, but it would be wrong to say that any of the songs are bad. They all work. I think Steven has cursed himself with his fan base because the expectations are unreasonably high every time he makes a record, because his back catalog is so phenomenal. Imagine a scenario where The Future Bites was delivered by some unknown artist. Everyone would be taking notice of what is an extremely strong musical statement. Period. Nine. There are moments of some of Steven's best work on this record. The anarchic guitar solos in Self and Eminent Sleaze are easily some of Steven's personal best guitar work. Adrian Belew himself would be proud to have played those solos. The reverb-drenched arpeggiators and Little Altar Boy affected vocals in King Ghost are inspired. 12 Things I Forgot, this is a banger in the tradition of some of the best Porcupine Tree songs. I probably don't need to point out that the chord progression of 12 Things I Forgot is the same chord progression as the bridge of Lazarus, but injected with an ESC. What it meant to you. And yes, that ESC does hit me hard in the heart arteries. The loose, gentle percussion, it almost sounds like coffee cans played with brushes. That sits clearly amongst a sea of organs and synth pads in Count of Unease. It gives me chills every time. These are songs that could only have been created by a veteran musician's musician. 10. The dude needs to make a living. If Steven seems obsessed with reaching a wider audience, it's because he needs to make a frickin' living. In the current music economy, it's harder than ever to leverage the release of a recording into a reasonable salary. Steven has said candidly that the entire time Porcupine Tree existed was a struggle, and I believe that. I'm sure it was. To make the lazy observation that Steven has been self-promoting the record all year, and that might seem hypocritical based on the topic of the album, it's his fucking job to promote the release of his records. Do you think he enjoys doing it? I don't know a single artist who enjoys self-promoting, but we have to. Nobody's going to do it for us. It feels disgusting. You're constantly having to ask people to buy your stuff or to support you on Patreon. It's the reality of the situation. 11. On top of all that, he's giving so much of his proceeds to charity. I mean, not much more needs to be said about this. I have been amazed in the past year to see how often artists are giving their entire Bandcamp Friday or whatever proceeds to charity. In Steven Wilson's case, he sold a limited edition single copy of a box set for 10,000 euros and has given all of that money to a charity called the Music Venue Trust. And I personally can't think of a more noble cause during this time. I live in Brooklyn, New York, where like the vast majority of independent music venues have closed permanently. And that is a horrible thing for the arts community, for the live music scene, for a city's culture, or for the world's culture in general. This is a horrible development. So like I said, there's no nobler way to allocate $13,000 of a loyal fan's money, who seems like a fucking cool dude, by the way, to help out gig venues that are struggling. 12. The artists we love need our unconditional support as fans. Steven, like every other artist in the world, has had the majority of his income abruptly removed. Artists who are managing to stay active despite the harsh circumstances surrounding their career or lack thereof at the moment are amazing. If we want to foster a culture of uncompromising creativity, we need to vocally support artists who are fighting the good fight. Especially right now, when the Western world has devalued music to such an extent that tens of millions of streams converts to barely a lower middle class income. Finally, I just want to say, remember, Steven Wilson is a real person. He is very well aware of all the shit talking that's going on the internet surrounding this new record, and I'm sure it's hurting his feelings. Artists are sensitive. And while we're at it, please remember that I am a real person when you go to the comment section of this video. I'm making these YouTube videos because I, like every other musician, lost basically all of my work in 2020, and it's looking like it's going to be very similar for 2021. I'm just trying to stay afloat. Artists are relegated to a position where we have to humbly ask for help, and I think the very least a music fan could do is to not shit on artists. All right, world, you've gotten to know Positive Brian. Today you got to meet Negative Brian. I'm going to try and flip the switch and be a little positive here. Thanks to my patrons. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you, and you are personally making the creation of these videos possible. So thank you. I'll be back shortly with more episodes of Score Study. So stay tuned. Please click like and subscribe and hit that little bell so you get notifications. Follow me on social media. Thank you. I appreciate it.